In this video, we are going to preview and review how to access and complete assignment number 4, which is the timeline regarding immigration. So as usual, the first thing I'm going to do is go to www.springisd.org. It brings me to my homepage. I'm going to click on the Empowered Learning at Home tab, which allows me to access the assignments for different grade levels. I'm going to click on 6th grade. Okay, and again, we're focusing on assignment number 4, the timeline right here. In order to access that assignment, I'm going to click Communicating for Global Change. It's going to bring up the document that has all of the assignment information. Remember, when we scroll to page 3, we see the list of assignments. But to read more specifically about each assignment, we have to keep scrolling until we come across that assignment in the document. So I'm going to scroll all the way down until I see assignment number 4. It's titled Timeline. So this is the letter to the legislature. I'm going to keep going. Here it says research and design a timeline. So this begins on page 7, at the end of page 7. So the instructions tell me to design a timeline of U.S. immigration across the U.S.-Mexico border. So this is what I'm looking for specifically, okay? So I'm going to actually just highlight that and I'm going to copy it. And it says that includes key events you think are important, okay? There are multiple ways to do this. Different timelines tell different stories and emphasize different factors. Here are some questions to prompt the way you shape your project. So there's a couple of different ways you can approach. One way is the legal decisions made in the U.S., right? It says they affect families' personal decisions to immigrate. What policy changes have influenced migration to the U.S.? Research key policies and legal decisions. So this tells you the first thing that you can research, okay? The second thing, how has conflict from other parts of the world led to increased immigration to the United States? So there's another question. This one gives you a lot of other things to look up. Look up the Guatemalan Civil War and conflicts in other countries to create a timeline of events that may have led to increased migration to the US, okay? As we keep scrolling down, we see that there is the timeline assignment here, and it gives us the link to the document to submit the timeline. When we click that, as usual, it prompts us to make a copy. You can see mine is loading. Okay, it loads, and I know it's a copy because it says copy of timeline. As usual, I'm going to erase copy of, and I'm going to type WMS. At the end, I'm going to put an underscore, and I'm going to type my name to make this document my own. When I come down here in the document itself, I'm going to type my name again, and I'm going to type today's date. Okay, now let's just preview the document. So it says, write the events and policies that may have led to increased migration in or to the US. Remember to include the dates. So this is where you just might make a list of the different things that you read about. This is not where you actually put your timeline. Down here where it says now organize the events and policies by date. So I'm not going to recommend using this document because it's difficult to actually type on. So I'm just going to select it and I'm going to delete it. Okay. And you don't have to use it either. It's easier if you just organize the dates in chronological order that they happen. So for example, here you see my cursor, it's blank. I'm going to just type my date. So let's say, for example, in 1981, right, something happened, okay? I'm going to type some letters just so you can see, right? And then maybe also from my research, I learned that in 1978, something else happened, right? Just an example. Now, notice this is not in order. 1978 comes before 1981, but I'm still listing my events in a list format. I have to make sure that they are in order. So I would need to put whatever happened earliest at the top of the list here, okay? And then now they'd be in order, and whatever this information would be actual information, not just jibber jabber, okay? So I would type my events like this, and then something may have happened in 1990, right? Notice that all of my dates are in order, okay? From earliest to latest. So that's how you're going to write your events and policies by date. But what the actual dates are and the actual information that you type after will be based upon your research. Now, let me navigate out of this and back to the assignment document so I can talk to you a little bit about research. Notice when we scroll up to page 7, right before it introduces the timeline, it gives us 2 links for research. The first link, when you click it, it's going to say the research process, and it'll take you to a YouTube video. You have to watch this YouTube video before you even begin to research, okay? Once you watch this video, you're going to go back to your assignment document, and you're going to watch the second video, how to research online, okay? When I click the hyperlink, it brings it up. It takes me straight to YouTube, and it's a video on reading news online. So this talks about how you access certain sites and what's legitimate information versus not legitimate information, which I'm going to talk about a little bit next. So even though you have these 2 documents, right, and they kind of tell you what you're researching, let's talk a little bit more about how you might start your research project. So for example, I'm going to open a new window, just a Google window, because a lot of times we go to Google to find out information. So I'm going to open up a Google window. I'm going to go back to my assignment, and I'm going to see, it's asking me to design a timeline of U.S. immigration across the U.S.-Mexico border. So I'm going to copy this straight from this assignment. It's not plagiarism. It's just what I'm going to search. And then I'm going to just type it in the search box here. I'm going to paste it. Okay. And I'm just going to see, what does Google tell me? Notice I see a lot of different things that can help me start my research process. So I see first we got frontline world Mexico border timeline. This looks like something that can contribute to my assignment. Now I see different events that are happening. I see dates, right? So I could essentially use this information for my timeline, but I would need to go through and I would need to start here, and I would need to read what they say during this time period, and I would need to put it in my own words so that I can make that the first thing on my timeline, right? It says it lasted from 1929. So that would probably be the earliest date on my timeline, 1924 to 1929, right? Then I see 1942 to 1965. Again, I would need to read this and put it in my own words as a summary. Same thing here. I see 1970. So I would just go down this list and I would read each of these things and I would summarize them for my timeline on this sheet right here. So that's one resource that I could use, right? And it would start with 1924 to 1929. That's how I might start here. And then whatever I summarized, I would type it here. Then I would go down, what's the second? 1942 to 1965. I would type that on my assignment, 1942 to 1965. And then I would, again, summarize this piece of information and I would type it right here. Then I'll go down to the next one, 1970s, 1980s. So I'm using this resource, and you can also borrow the titles from up here, right? If you borrow them, say for example, I put early migration, labor, and war on my timeline right here. Up here, I'll put it in parentheses. Early migration, labor and war. I'll put this, and I'm going to put it in parentheses because, or in quotation marks, sorry, quotation marks, because that signifies that I borrowed this from the website. So I'm not trying to say it's mine. I'm not cheating. I'm not using it as my own idea. I put it in quotation marks because it belongs to the website. And you can do that for the other ones as well. But when you start writing your summary, you cannot copy and paste this whole piece of information and then put it on your sheet, right? This is 1970s. I can't copy this and just paste it. That is cheating. Even if I put it in quotation marks, that's cheating, okay? I'm not asking for you to do this. I'm asking for you to read this and then put it in your own words and write your summary of what happened during that time period here. Okay, so that's one way to work on that. When I go back to my Google search, right, so this is just one website, one option that you have. If I click back, it'll take me back to my Google search. I have another option here, U.S. immigration timeline. Let's see what they offer me. So this is a history website. It seems like it's pretty reputable. It's history from history.com. This also gives me a list of things that happened. Notice you see dates here, okay? And you see information next to the date, as well as a hyperlink for more information. So I can even read about this guy, Thomas Paine, who's mentioned here, and I can include some additional information just by clicking the hyperlink, okay? Talks about Irish. But notice this website seems like it gives me more information than I need because the assignment is talking about immigration across the US-Mexico border. And this is talking about Irish immigration. So when you're doing your research, you have to be very careful to make sure that the information that you're putting on your assignment is only information that pertains to the assignment, right? The assignment is about U.S. immigration across U.S.-Mexico border. So you shouldn't include information about Irish immigrants because that's not what it's asking, unless Irish immigrants crossed into the U.S. through Mexico, right? Notice it's asking about policies. It says, research key legal policies and decisions, okay? Notice here it talks about the Steerage Act of 1819. So whenever you see something called an act, that's kind of like a decision that impacts law and policy, okay? So same here, right? You see legal decisions. 1875, the Supreme Court. So that's what they're talking about when they talk about decisions. You see act again, but again, this is Chinese. So we're looking specifically for U.S. across the Mexican border. So be careful when you're making your timeline and ensure that you're only including information that is relevant to the assignment, okay? I'm gonna show you another way to search information when you're researching, okay? Down here it says, there's a question. You can take this whole question and you can type it into Google and you can see what results it gives you. So here, right, how U.S. immigration laws and rules have changed. And it gives me another website with dates and information. So I can use this information to talk about how laws and rules have changed as well. I can also, but remember, you're looking specifically for things that happen and when they're happening, and you have to summarize and put things in your own words, but this is a good place to research and get information, okay? I can also go back and I can type this question. How has conflict from other parts of the world led to increased immigration to the U.S.? Let's see what happens when I go to Google and I type this question. I get yet another. Actually, I'm going to add timeline at the end because I'm looking specifically for some dates. So that brings up the same resource that I accessed before. Let's see. So here we are, right in the U.S. this one might give me more than I need because it's talking about Europe, right? And we're just looking for the US-Mexico border. So keep in mind, when you're searching different things, you want to make sure that all the